Resumes tomorrow morning in that South Carolina church shooting case. Dylann Roof, 22 years old, accused of killing 9 parishioners at Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston. It was an emotional first week. Jurors heard Roof's 2-hour confession. They were shown graphic crime scene photos from inside the church. Well, the testimony is continuing this week. The prosecution says they may rest their case as early as Wednesday, though. But let's talk to criminal defense and constitutional attorney Page Pate about this first and foremost. So as we look ahead to what happens, we know that Dylann Roof is representing himself. What is the chance he will take the stand?
I think there's a good chance of that. I think it's clear from the beginning of this case, well, from the beginning of the crime, that Dylann Roof had a message he wanted to send. We saw the manifesto that he wrote. His reason for going in there obviously had to do with his beliefs relating to white supremacy, and he echoed those beliefs in his taped confession. So for him to have the opportunity, that kind of an audience there in open court, to get his views exposed, I anticipate we're going to see him testify.
This is a death penalty case. Do you think he should die based on what we know thus far?
There's no question about guilt or innocence. I mean, he confessed almost as soon as they arrested him. This trial was never about guilt or innocence. The lawyers that are there to represent him, to stand by him, have already told the jury, you're probably not going to hear any evidence from us, no witnesses. There's not a question of whether or not he did it. What is the right penalty for something like this? The state is also seeking the death penalty. The federal government doesn't usually do it unless it's a terrorism type case, and many people can equate this case to terrorism because he had an agenda and he killed people. Personally, I'm not an opponent of the death penalty in every case, but this guy obviously has some mental illness problems. The judge
But he was found capable
no
of standing trial.
But competency is different from mental illness. Competency requires only that you have some general idea of what's going on and you can help your lawyers. It doesn't mean you understand the consequences of your action. I think it's clear this guy was operating under some type of a delusion. I mean, the way he calmly described what he did and admitted what he did, I think shows that not everything's working right in his brain.
And the lack of remorse.
And the complete lack of remorse.
So are you saying when we look at this, because they're essentially just trying to keep him off death row, they're trying to save his life, they're not trying to determine whether he's guilty. Why did it even go to trial? Was there another way to do this?
Absolutely. I mean, if the federal government and the state, because they're also pursuing a case against him, had agreed that he could simply serve his sentence in prison for the rest of his life and they took death penalty off the table, there would have been no trial. But the federal government refused to do that. They said, we're going to try him, we're going to seek the death penalty because this is one of those kinds of cases where we just feel it's the appropriate thing to do.
So we have this jury of 10 women, 2 men. 9 of them are white, 3 of them are African American. Do people often have a hard time sentencing someone to death? Because the jury is going to make that determination.
Absolutely, yes.
They do?
Oh, I think so. I hope so. I mean, it's the ultimate sentence. And the guilt or innocence phase is separate. So once they get past that, then they will consider whether or not death is the right sentence in this case. And in the sentencing proceeding, you're going to hear more about Dylann Roof, his family, his upbringing, some of the ideas that he became exposed to over the internet. And the jury will have to determine, is this somebody who completely is without remorse, no possibility of rehabilitation, and somebody who is dangerous even if we keep him in prison. And that's an argument usually that prosecutors will make. We know he did this. What is he going to do the next time? Is it possible he could injure a guard, another inmate?
Sure.
So they'll consider all of that in determining the sentence.
All right. Page Pate, we appreciate your insight on this. Thank you so
Kristen.
much. Absolutely. Victor?